Hello everyone, it's, what is it? It's Wednesday. I'm on to my 5th Narnia book in a row. This is like the most amazing rereading process. I've read the books again and again over the years, but never in the correct order, which seems altogether typical. When you fit them together in C.S. Lewis's reading order, a different kind of magic comes up, really. It's really interesting and touching the way the saga expands and builds the world of Narnia outwards. The bit that I was reading very late last night in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, a book which I last read, I would say, 22 years ago, when I first was thinking of changing jobs, actually, from Norwich to Manchester. And I remember reading this over Christmas, getting up very early on Christmas morning and reading some of this, but so much of it has vanished from my head completely. I know they go on this journey on different islands where the Dawn Treader arrives. They have these strange encounters, and they some of them more frightening than others. And there's a moment in chapter 10 when Lucy is at the heart of the story, and she has to undo an enchantment over the inhabitants of the island. They're all invisible, and she has to go to the magician's house, find his book of spells, and she's very intrigued by every spell she reads, and Aslan is there. And each spell seems to be a different kind of knowledge or insight, but she gets to a particular page, and this really resonated with me, this bit. I thought I'd read it. On the next page in the spell book, she came to a spell for the refreshment of the spirit. The pictures were fewer here, but very beautiful, and what Lucy found herself reading was more like a story than a spell. It went on for 3 pages, and before she had read to the bottom of the page, she had forgotten that she was reading at all. She was living in the story as if it were real, and all the pictures were real too. When she had got to the 3rd page and come to the end, she said, "That is the loveliest story I've ever read, or ever shall read in my whole life. Oh, I wish I could have gone on reading it for 10 years. At least I'll read it over again." But here, part of the magic of the book came into play. You couldn't turn back. The right-hand pages, the ones ahead, could be turned. The left-hand pages could not. "Oh, what a shame," said Lucy. "I did so want to read it again. Well, at least I must remember it. Let's see. It was about... Oh dear, it's all fading away again. And even this last page is going blank. This is a very queer book. How can I have forgotten? It was about a cup and a sword and a tree and a green hill, I know that much. But I can't remember, and what shall I do?" And she never could remember, and ever since that day, what Lucy means by a good story is a story which reminds her of the forgotten story in the magician's book. And then we get to the resolution of that whole tale of the invisible people. But that business of she can't turn the book back to reread that perfect story, and the story's fading from her head and fading from the page, is hugely resonant. When I was very little, 2 or 3, I would say, I went to Bin's department store in South Shields at Christmas, and I can still see this kind of tinselly wonderland in the basement, in their book department where Santa's grotto was located. And I was taken to see Santa by my little Nana. There was a book somewhere in that book department, a picture book, which I've looked for forever. It seemed like the most magical book in the world. There were pink and blue flowers in a meadow for miles and miles in a pink sky in lots of the illustrations. I've no idea what the book was about. I just remember this pink and blue meadow and those being the colours all the way through this really beautifully illustrated books. Over the years, I've looked at eBay, Abe Books, every second-hand bookshop I've ever been to, looking for this one book from about 71, 72, thinking it's somehow the magical gateway into the world of that particular past. I had to put the book down and leave, and we went up the escalator and left the shop, and I never knew what the book was. I was parted from that perfect picture book. And maybe that's the point. It wouldn't have been perfect had I been able to take it home or found it again. Maybe it's best in my head. And how interesting that Lucy, and then later Aslan tells her, you know, you can't go back. He will tell you, Lucy, the story again, he says, I think. I think he tells her that. But, oh, shall I ever be able to read that story again, the one I couldn't remember? Will you tell it to me, Aslan? Oh, do, do, do. Indeed, yes, I will tell it to you for years and years. But now come, we must meet the master of this house, is how the chapter ends. In some ways, Narnia itself is the text, the book at the beginning of all of my reading, all of these books we were read at school. And as I said in an interview for a thing earlier today, online interview, a talk I gave, all of my teachers were mentors. Even the worst teacher I ever had in junior school, the one who told me I would have to fit in order to be happy in life. Even she gave us great books. She gave us The Secret Garden, 101 Dalmatians, and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. She read all of those to us. So even the very worst teachers gave something amazing and contributed to my whatever this is. This life as a reader. But it's not true. You can go back, and Narnia hasn't lost anything. In fact, I think on this reading it's gained so much. It's not my first time, but with each reading, as should be the case with books that are great, I'm getting more from it. I'm seeing it from all sorts of angles. It has a kind of a richness to it that I'd not seen before. I'd seen them as kind of adventure stories with a Christian underpinning, but there's something about growing up and stories and who we become through exposure to those stories. There's lots of storytelling. I hadn't noticed that before in these books. There's lots of characters who recount legends and tales and stories to each other. Even just, you know, to recap on the story so far within a particular book, or what's been going on in a different strand. Storytelling is essential to it. But anyway, it's not right, Lucy. You can turn back and experience that particular magic again. But I don't think I'll ever find my pink and blue book from Bin's department store. I don't think that's ever going to come back. So that's good, still to have something tantalizingly out of reach at the furthest edge of my reader's imagination. Anyway, that's me reading, almost at the end now, of The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, with 2 more to go. I'll tell you how I get on with them. And then it'll be time to get into Christmas reading properly. Although, as I've said elsewhere, I think of Narnia as being extremely Christmassy. Okay, goodbye everyone. I will see you again quite soon. Goodbye.